The chill of the night air on my balcony was a stark contrast to the heat rising in my chest. It was my 70th birthday, and the only message I'd received all day was a terse text from my son, Alex. "Dad, we're busy. You're being suffocating. We need space." Below it, a single thumbs-up emoji from his wife, Clara. Space. They wanted space. I looked out over the city lights, a glittering tapestry of lives I no longer felt a part of. My empire, built from nothing, now felt like a cage. My son, the one I'd groomed to take over Vance Innovations, saw me as an obstacle. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. The familiar ache of disappointment solidified into something cold, sharp, and resolute. If they wanted space, I would give them an ocean. I was Arthur Vance, a name synonymous with innovation in the tech world. To Alex, I was just Dad, a relic clinging to control. He'd always resented my success, felt overshadowed. I'd tried to give him everything: the best education, a leadership role in the company, a lavish lifestyle. But instead of gratitude, it bred entitlement. He saw my guidance as interference, my wisdom as an old man's ramblings. For years, I'd watched him make reckless decisions, squander opportunities, and accumulate debt. I'd bailed him out countless times, always with the hope that he'd learn. But each rescue only deepened his sense of impunity. He believed the Vance fortune was his birthright, an endless wellspring for his extravagant whims and failed ventures. Clara, his wife, was an accelerant, whispering promises of a life of unearned luxury, pushing him further away from any sense of responsibility. The day after my birthday, the silence from Alex and Clara was absolute. No follow-up, no apology, just the vast, empty space they had demanded. I spent the morning in my study, a room filled with the trophies of a lifetime's work, but now feeling hollow. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over Alex's contact. Old habits die hard, but then I remembered his words. "Please do not reach out anymore at all. We will call you when we are ready." Ready for what? For my money? For my influence? Never for me, Arthur Vance, the man who loved him. That afternoon, I called my lawyer, Marcus Thorne. Marcus had been with me since the early days, a man whose loyalty was as unshakable as his legal acumen. "Marcus," I said, my voice steady, "I need you to freeze all of Alex's discretionary accounts, every single one, and Clara's too, effective immediately." There was a beat of silence on the other end. "Arthur, are you sure? This is drastic." "I've never been more sure," I replied. "They want space. I'm giving it to them, and I want to see what happens when that space is truly empty." The next few days were quiet, too quiet. I knew the financial shockwaves would hit them hard. Alex's startup, built on borrowed capital and my silent subsidies, was already teetering. Clara's designer shopping sprees and lavish restaurant bills were all funded by me. I waited, expecting a furious call, a desperate plea, but nothing came. It was unnerving. Then, a week later, a registered letter arrived. It was from Alex's lawyer, a petition for guardianship. They were claiming I was suffering from cognitive decline, that I was no longer fit to manage my own affairs. They wanted to declare me incompetent and take control of Vance Innovations and my entire estate, my own son. He wasn't just asking for space, he was trying to erase me. A cold fury, unlike anything I'd ever known, settled in my bones. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about betrayal, about the ultimate disrespect. They weren't just trying to take my fortune. They were trying to steal my identity, my legacy, my very mind. I called Marcus back. "They've made their move," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "They're coming for everything." "I saw the filing, Arthur. It's audacious. But we can fight this. We have your medical records, your recent board meeting minutes, your clear cognitive function." "No," I said, a plan already forming in my mind. "We won't just fight it. We'll let them think they're winning. We'll give them rope. And then, we'll watch them hang themselves." Marcus was silent for a moment. He knew that tone. It was the tone I used when I was about to execute a hostile takeover, a move that would leave my opponents utterly decimated. "What do you have in mind, Arthur?" "I want you to let them gather their evidence. Let them present their case. And in the meantime, I want you to plant a seed. A rumor that I've been exhibiting erratic behavior, memory lapses, nothing concrete, just enough to make their claims seem plausible to an outsider. You want to play into their narrative? Marcus sounded incredulous. Precisely, I confirmed. And then, I want you to arrange for a private investigator, someone discreet, someone who can get close to Alex and Clara without arousing suspicion. I have a feeling they're not just after my money. I think there's a deeper, darker motive at play. Over the next few weeks, the charade began. I deliberately missed a few calls from old colleagues, feigned confusion during a video conference, and allowed myself to appear disheveled on a rare public outing. The rumors spread like wildfire. Alex and Clara, emboldened by what they perceived as my decline, pushed their case with renewed vigor. They brought in a psychiatrist, Dr. Evelyn Reed, known for her aggressive tactics in guardianship cases. The day of the preliminary hearing arrived. The courtroom was a grand, imposing space, filled with the hushed whispers of lawyers and the nervous energy of families torn apart. Alex and Clara sat at the plaintiff's table, their faces a mask of concern, but their eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger. Dr. Reed presented a damning report, painting a picture of a once brilliant mind succumbing to the ravages of age. She cited my erratic behavior, my social withdrawal, and my unexplained financial decisions. Then Alex took the stand. He spoke with a practiced tremor in his voice, describing my supposed forgetfulness, my increasing isolation. "It pains me to do this, Your Honor," he choked out, wiping a tear from his eye. "But my father, he's not himself. He needs protection, from himself and from those who would take advantage of his vulnerability." Clara nodded solemnly beside him, a picture of a grieving daughter-in-law. I sat at the defense table, a silent observer. My lawyer, Marcus, had advised me to remain impassive, to let their performance unfold. But inside, a storm raged. To hear my own son, the boy I had loved and nurtured, spin such a web of lies, it was a pain more profound than any financial loss. As Alex finished his testimony, the judge, a stern woman named Justice Albright, looked at me with a gaze that mixed pity and concern. It was clear she was swayed. The room held its breath, waiting for her ruling. "Your Honor," Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm and deliberate. "The defense would like to present one final piece of evidence before you make your decision. We call it Exhibit B." He walked to the court's projector, a flash drive in hand. Alex's face, which had been radiating smug satisfaction, suddenly paled. Clara gripped his arm, a flicker of fear in her eyes. They knew, or at least, they suspected. The large screen flickered to life, showing grainy night vision footage of a dimly lit motel room. The sound of a television, barely audible, filled the courtroom, and then Alex's voice, clear and chilling, cut through the silence. "Are you sure this Dr. Reed can be trusted?" he asked, pacing back and forth in the video. He was shirtless, a half-empty bottle of whiskey on the table. Clara sat on the bed, filing her nails. "She's expensive, but effective," Clara replied, her voice flat. "She'll get the job done. Once he's declared incompetent, we get control. Vance Innovations, the whole estate, it's ours." The courtroom gasped. Justice Albright's eyes widened, her expression hardening. Alex and Clara, frozen in their seats, watched their carefully constructed lies crumble before their eyes. Then came the line that made the blood run cold. Alex stopped pacing, his eyes fixed on Clara. "Honestly, it would be better if the old man just died soon. Ideally, the stress of this whole thing gives him a heart attack. If he kicks the bucket, we bypass the guardianship entirely and go straight to probate. I need that money, Clara. The loan sharks are breathing down my neck. If I don't pay them $2 million by the end of the month, they're going to break my legs. So yeah, if he dies, it solves everything." Marcus pressed a button, and the screen went black. The echo of Alex's words, "wishing for my death," hung heavy in the silent courtroom. Justice Albright slammed her gavel down, the sound like a gunshot. "Mr. Sullivan," she thundered, her voice laced with disgust, "you are under arrest for attempted elder abuse, conspiracy, and solicitation of murder." Alex sprang to his feet, overturning his chair. "That's out of context. That's fake." "He faked it!" he screamed, his face contorted in a mask of pure terror. "Silence!" Justice Albright roared. "Bailiff, take them into custody." As Alex and Clara were led away in handcuffs, their pleas and protests echoing in the marble halls, I felt a strange sense of calm. The weight that had been pressing on my chest for so long finally lifted. It wasn't triumph, not exactly. It was the quiet satisfaction of justice served, of a truth finally revealed. The media frenzy that followed was intense. Vance Innovations issued a statement, distancing itself from Alex and Clara. The story of my son's betrayal became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even the closest bonds can be twisted by greed. In the aftermath, I restructured my will, establishing a charitable foundation that would carry on my legacy, focusing on ethical innovation and supporting young entrepreneurs who valued integrity over quick profit. Alex and Clara faced serious charges, their lives irrevocably altered by their own avarice. I often sit on my balcony now, watching the city lights, but the feeling is different. The silence is no longer deafening, it's peaceful. I lost a son in a way, but I found myself again. I learned a painful truth. Love, even paternal love, cannot save someone who refuses to save themselves. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is to let go, to allow consequences to teach the lessons you could not. The space they demanded, the space I gave them, ultimately became the space where I finally found my own freedom. It was the most expensive luxury I'd ever bought, and the most priceless. This story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real people, events, or places is purely coincidental.